Whenever I hear the line, "shit hot he would change," I already know how it turns out. And nearly always poorly. Have you ever witnessed violence masked behind a smile? How photos of a happy couple are liked while in the background, there is screaming, crying, pleading with them to please stop. This is just that sort of story. On the surface, lovely faces, wine nights, vacations, giggles. But beneath that mask, fear, liquor, control, and a constant voice in her head, "You're nothing without me." And when I first read the case files, I found myself saying, if someone had intervened, even just a week before, things could have been different. Sativa Transue was born on May 19, 1995 in Cheney, Washington. This little town, with its suburban streets and its university-attracting vibrancy, is the sort of American location where everyone knows each other and strangers stand out. Her mother Jaime gave birth to Sativa at 16. She used to say that she and Sativa raised each other more like best friends than just mother and daughter, tied not only by blood, but by mutual trust. Younger siblings in the family were her sister Michaela and brother CJ. Their father Jason was present in their lives, but it was the relationship between Jaime and Sativa that held them together. Sativa had a boundless energy from an early age. Her laughter was infectious. She easily made friends, and she was very compassionate to homeless animals. Her pets, a dog called Shadow and a cat called Flower, were not just animals to her. They were family. Those who knew her said the same. Kind, energetic, generous, always willing to lend a hand. She followed her heart when deciding on what to study. Sativa attended Eastern Washington University, where she studied exercise science. Her passion for sport, health, and human anatomy were all in the way she perceived life. Following her graduation in 2017, she dived right into working as a massage therapist for a firm known as Lucid. She dove headfirst into her job, usually taking on overtime shifts, set on establishing a solid future. Coworkers described her as a person who, even with only a few hours rest, would arrive for work beaming with warmth and happiness. But peace is fleeting. The entry of Taylor Allen, 4 years older than Sativa, who rearranged everything. He was a construction worker and enjoyed wanting to be a regular guy. Behind his all-American, down-to-earth look, however, was a profound exhaustion and a seething inward fury. His name had already appeared in the police blotter. In 2012, he was busted for fourth-degree assault. It was a small charge, but enough to make a note. The circumstances of the incident were unclear, but the arrest was well documented. Alcohol was his means of dealing with the pressure within him, and year by year, he consumed more. Those who knew him recognized a dual personality. Sober, he could be quiet, even mannerly. But the moment he began drinking, he'd switch, becoming loud, irritable, and sometimes aggressive. Individuals like that are difficult to love, but even more difficult to comprehend why someone would elect to remain. When Sativa and Taylor came in contact, it caught others by surprise. She was lively, warm, friendly. He was brooding, guarded, quick-tempered. They could have been no more. Different. But destiny had other things planned. Perhaps she saw someone who needed to be saved. Perhaps he saw someone whom he could control. What began as a mere unusual relationship gradually turned into something alarming and then something dangerous. Nobody was aware of it yet, but this relationship was going to be deadly for Sativa. Sativa decided to move in with him, after dating him for a few months, Taylor, beginning a new chapter of her life in Milton, roughly a 5-hour drive from her family. For her, it represented independence, creating a life together, making plans for the future. But for Taylor, it meant having total control of the situation. At first, everything was fine. He picked her up from work, assisted around the house, told her he worried when she was late. But slowly that worry turned into incessant questioning. Who was calling her? Who was texting? Why was her phone locked? His jealousy continued to build, and any talk Sativa had with coworkers or friends from the past itched. In a few weeks, it became worse. Taylor installed spyware in her phone without her knowledge, forwarding all her messages onto his laptop. Sativa was unaware. She didn't realize that everything she typed, every personal conversation was monitored. To Taylor, this was just another sign he cared. The first trueward flag emerged over something tiny. He could not construct a new table. It was supposed to be no big thing, but frustration turned into fury. He picked up a sledgehammer and destroyed the furniture to bits. Sativa simply stood there not knowing what to say. That was the first time she noticed how quickly his peacefulness could turn to brutality. Her mom, Jaime, knew immediately that something was amiss. Sativa called less frequently. She began to make excuses for Taylor's actions. Friends inquired if everything was fine, but she always replied the same way. "He's just exhausted. It's my decision." Her responses became evasive, as if she was fearful that any external intrusion would only exacerbate things. From then on, observing her became his habit. He inspected her phone, her email, knew her work routine, and with whom she socialized. Each move was tracked. On the surface, they appeared to be any typical couple, but inside she was totally reliant. Sativa still hadn't understood she wasn't living with a partner, but with someone who had long since gone past the line. The Milton home, where she had moved for a new beginning, gradually became a place where she no longer felt free. That love she used to take pride in became something she was afraid of. And this was the kind of fear you couldn't just walk away from. August 2021. Michaela made up her mind to visit her sister. Sativa hadn't been home in a long time, so Michaela went out of town for a few days and traveled to Milton. Her sister smiled and welcomed her, told her everything was okay, but the house had a peculiar impression. From the very beginning, it was obvious there was no harmony in that setting. Holes in the walls, dents on the doors, broken handles on pieces of furniture, corners stacked with signs of collision. Michaela asked what had occurred. Sativa calmly replied, "We just put the furniture in the wrong place. We'll take care of it later." Ithad the words already prepared in advance. Taylor, Sativa's husband, was never at home. He spent all his time at the workplace or among his friends. And whenever he did return, he was unstable. His presence was tense. He was boisterous. He drank. He got annoyed over nothing. And there was no warmth in his eyes. Michaela could observe how Sativa bristled at the slightest sound of his footsteps. One night, the sisters remained in the kitchen. Sativa attempted to jest it away. When he was drinking, I refer to him as the beast. Michaela understood that beneath that terrible phrase, there wasn't only fear. There was fatigue, a weary resignation to the circumstance. The next few days were filled with silence. In the mornings, Sativa spoke hardly a word. In the evenings, she waited for Taylor to sleep. Life inside that home was all about his temper. Michaela noticed what was occurring, but had no idea how to assist. She stroked replied that Sativa return home, even for a little while. But Sativa merely said she could manage it, that Taylor was merely going through a bad time. On the day she left, Michaela packed insolence. Her sister at the door told her everything was all right, but here Yez told the opposite. During the drive home, Michaela did not put on any music. One thing kept repeating itself in her head. Something is going to go wrong. That feeling would linger for a long time. It can be very hard to realize that someone is dangerous. They may be nice, caring, easygoing, but behind the smile is a desire for power and a wish to control. Psychologists have a name for individuals such as this: malignant narcissists. They're not simply selfish, they're addicted to dominating others. They begin by winning you over with attention and support, inventing the illusion of a flawless relationship. But with time, that attention becomes total monitoring, and that support is continuous pressure. They must know everything about your life, and any sign of autonomy feels to them like betrayal. Their strongest weapon is manipulation, distorting facts, turning situations on their head, getting their partner to doubt their own perception. Nothing is ever their fault. They never take responsibility, never apologize, because in their head they're never wrong. Everyone else is. It's a cycle. A rage burst, a transient moment of regret, a vow to change, and then the next cycle of hurt feelings. In between, there's a tentative illusion of peace. But it's only there to prevent the other person from walking out. That's how dependence sets in. Where dread lives alongside hope. They don't always hurt with their fists, but their words, they sting deeper. Wounds to the body can mend. Words said with cold calculation, those leave wounds that last a lifetime. Taylor Allen personified that type to a T. Ongoing jealousy, possessiveness, diminishing her, denying fault. Every textbook trait of a narcissist with harmful tendencies was there. He broke her down psychologically, tracking her, blaming her, making her apologize for things she didn't even do. He didn't want a partner. He wanted control. If the dictionary had a picture next to the term malignant narcissist, it could have been his face. By the fall of 2021, Sativa and Taylor's relationship had completely deteriorated. She couldn't keep justifying his temper. She couldn't take the suspicion, the constant surveillance. She packed her bags more than once, but something always made her stop. Still, deep down, she knew it had to end. She had to get out and go home. That's when Taylor made an unexpected move. He suggested they spend Thanksgiving in Cancun. He called it a fresh start, said the vacation would help them get back on track. Sativa hesitated. Thanksgiving had always been about family. Her mom's home in Washington, shared meals, things she never skipped. Jaime and Michaela said to stay home. But Taylor persisted, said he was sick of the fights, that things would change, that the trip would be the turning point. His words were almost convincing, nearly sincere. Sativa didn't believe anything he said, but she complied. Not because there was hope, but because she had a plan. The trip would be the end. Quiet, final, without conflict or danger. She explained to her co-workers she would be relocating after the break. She altered the passwords on her phone, took some of her vital documents and money with her sister just in case. To Taylor, reconciliation seemed to be on the cards. He was bubbling with enthusiasm, planning, selecting a hotel, Elitemo Resort in Cancun. He vowed it would be a peaceful trip without argument or drink. To Sativa, it was merely a break before she reached the finish line. Her sole aim was to create it on that trip and begin a life without him. She purchased the tickets. He told her, "You'll see." "Everything's going to be great," she replied. "We'll see." They both understood that something would change after that vacation. Neither of them knew exactly how permanent that change would be. November 2021, Cancun welcomed them with sunshine and heavy, heavy humidity. The Elitemo Resort seemed like the ideal vacation spot. Pools, music by the bar, tourists with drinks in hand. In the photographs Sativa shared in her stories, all was perfect. Smiles, beaches, palm trees. Fans enjoyed the photographs and commented on how jealous they were. Nobody had a clue that behind the lens, it was not the same. Private messages to the individuals nearest and dearest to her told a different story. She typed, "I just want this week to end." Those few words explained everything. There was no holiday going on. Taylor's promises were short-lived, just one day. On the second day, he broke a bottle of tequila to toast the journey. After the first shot, hemillowed. After the third, he began nitpicking for no reason. Sativa did not want to fight. She smiled in public, posed for photos, maintained the pretense of normalcy. To the people around them, they were just another couple away from home. But when the hotel room door closed behind them, the mood altered. Taylor became angry, yelled, demanded. Anything might trigger him. A person staring in her direction, her taking too long to respond to a message, not reacting to a joke in the manner he desired. In the night, they went to the bar. He ordered shots, cocktails, laughed louder than anybody else, attempted to initiate conversations with strangers. Sativa sat next to him, not wanting to trigger him. She texted her sister repeatedly. "He's already had too much. We're fighting over nothing again." By midnight, the fights escalated, shouting. Her neighbors in adjacent rooms heard noises loud through the wall. Brawling first, then thuds dull on furniture. The next day, she uploaded another smiling picture by the pool as if nothing happened. The entire week passed like this. Daytime, vacation on the surface. Nighttime, the same routine repeatedly. Taylor became jealous, asked her questions, checked her phone, asked the same questions repeatedly. He began drinking earlier every day, lost control faster every time. Hotel staff saw that she appeared tired, but there were no public confrontations. Sativa did not reveal specifics. She simply continued repeating in messages, "He has not changed." In one message to a friend, she included, "I think this is it. I just want to go home." Those words were the last indicator. Her decision to depart was firm. To everyone else, they were simply a couple from the U.S. on holiday. To her, it was a week of survival, in addition to someone she had already left emotionally. Cancun, a chance to make things right, had become a trap, one she would not escape. November 26, 2021. The final night, Sativa Transue was alive. The day was quiet. Breakfast, the beach, sunny pictures. In her tales, she smiled. Ocean in the background, a cocktail in hand. She and Taylor dined at the hotel restaurant that evening. Nothing was amiss at first. An order was made, light in color clothes, a sluggish conversation, but at dinner he began to drink again. Tequila shots back to back, then pina coladas. After dinner, his tone had changed, his face flushed, his eyes heavy. They went to the bar. That's when things totally got out of hand. He continued to drink. Shettried not to fight. A few times, Sativa stepped outside for a breath of air and texted her friend, "He's drinking again." "He's getting mad again." 30 minutes later, yelling. Other guests observed the fight but thought it was only a tipsy couple. Finally, security intervened and took both of them away to their room. Then quiet behind a closed door. Later, the reality would be known. There was a struggle in the room. Taylor assaulted Sativa, and one of the punches gave her a gash on her chin. Hotel doctors bandaged the wound and closed it up. When the doctor inquired about what occurred, she replied, "I fell." Then added, "I'm fine." But witnesses did notice. She appeared terrified and hardly made eye contact. Following the incident, Taylor's mood swings. One moment he was apologizing. The next he was announcing the relationship over and threatening to jump out the window. Staff were able to restrain him, but he ranted on, slamming the bathroom door, then pleading to begin again. Sativa remained silent. Neighbors on the floor later reported that sometime around midnight they heard loud shouting, furniture being knocked over, and loud thuds. A number of people discussed it the following morning, but nobody phoned the front desk or the authorities. Nobody knocked on the door. To them, it was merely another tourist couple who were quarreling. Past midnight, everything became quiet. By 9 a.m., the following day, her phone was quiet. No messages, no tales, no likes. That immediately concerned Michaela. Sativa was always replied to. Her sister sent a text message, then a call, no response. A few hours later, she posted a worried message on Facebook. "If anyone knows what's going on with Sativa, please let me know. She's not responding. They were arguing last night." At that moment, Michaela didn't know her sister could no longer reply. Around midnight, when the yelling stopped and the hotel returned to its usual hum of air conditioners, inside one of the rooms at Alma Resort, a 26-year-old woman from Cheney, Washington, took her last breath. The morning of the 27th of November, when the housekeeper opened the door to the room at Al Ritma Resort, Sativa was already deceased. She was face down, a bag slung across her shoulder as if she had attempted toescape, but never quite made it out. The medical examiner report left no question. The cause of death was strangulation. Her body revealed multiple bruises on her face, arms, chest, legs. The marks on her neck were clear and symmetrical. The doctor stated that the grip was tight, regulated, and sustained for an extended period. This was not an act of accident or a flash of anger. It was a conscious act where violence and control had been combined together. Forensic evidence indicates that during mechanical strangulation, an individual loses consciousness after approximately 30 seconds. However, it takes 4 to 5 minutes before breathing comes completely to a halt. That implies that, for those 5 minutes, the assailant continued, applying pressure fully aware of what he was doing. Experts refer to that space the zone of choice, the instant when one could release, call out for help, stop. He didn't stop. Criminologists and psychologists point out that strangulation is an extremely specific form of violence. It necessitates proximity, contact, physical control. It's not spontaneous. It's an exhibition of power. As British domestic violence specialist Jane Monton Smith reported, This isn't an act of rage. It's an act of domination. The person is showing they choose whether you live or die. Sativa's death took a few minutes. 5 agonizing minutes of suffering and realizing that no rescue was on the way. On the opposite side of the thin wall, tourists slumbered unaware. The air conditioner purred. Party music slowly diminished into silence. No one heard her last heartbeat. When her corpse was discovered, Taylor was found next to her dressed in a hotel robe. Under questioning, he said he couldn't recall anything, that she simply collapsed. But the experts' findings were evident. Evidence of struggle, gripping marks, no attempts to assist her. Murder isn't instant. It takes time. Not seconds, but minutes. Munisto realized that the person standing in front of you is alive, pleading with you to stop. Minutes to decide. He made his and he didn't cease. Those 5 minutes when Sativa Tranue's life was lost were not only proof of the crime itself, but that it wasn't a flash of rage. It was a choice, cold, calculating, deliberate, made against a living human being. On November 29, 2021, Mexican police issued an official statement. An American citizen was arrested in Cancun, suspected of murdering his partner. In the picture, Taylor Allen in a white hotel robe, unshaven, vacant stare. It was the first and only confirmation of his arrest. He was charged with potential femicide. Then the case took an unexpected turn. On December 2nd, Taylor was arrested again in the United States, but on unrelated charges not connected to Sativa's death. Mexican authorities continued their investigation while Sativa's body remained in a morgue in Cancun. Her family was forced to navigate a maze of legal procedures, document translations, and the high cost of repatriation, delaying her return home. To raise funds for transportation and the funeral, Sativa's mother and sister launched a GoFundMe campaign, aiming for $50,000 thanks to the support of friends, neighbors, and strangers. The goal was almost reached in only 2 weeks. On December 9th, her body was returned to Washington. 12 days following her death, the family was able to say goodbye. On December 11th, a memorial service was conducted in Spokane with over 200 people in attendance. The room was filled with purple balloons, her favorite color. People described her as kind, warm, full of light, always assisting others. Later at Wagon Wheel Bar and Grill, a place she used to love to travel with friends, they celebrated her life, pictures on the wall, candles on tables. Noon openly discussed how she had died, but everyone knew. In the meantime, the investigation in Mexico proceeded slowly. The Mexican legal system operates differently from the United States. The first scheduled hearing in September 8th, 2022 was canceled because there was a procedural problem with notifying the defendant. Taylor's attorneys had that as justification to delay the case. The subsequent months were spent waiting. In fall 2023, Sativa's sister Makila shared a status post on the GoFundMe page and in the Justice for Sativa group. Our attorney informed us that Taylor had filed an appeal. This prolongs the process once again for many months. He is now in a prison in Cancun. We are waiting for the trial, which they indicate will occur in 2024. The trial will be public. Each setback was another punch to the family. They realized that it formed part of the defense strategy to prolong the case by duration and employ every technicality available in order to delay the verdict. In Mexico, death penalty was officially abolished in 2005. The last known execution occurred way back in 1961, yet the nation continues to impose harsh punishments for femicide, life imprisonment, or long sentences without parole. In contrast to the United States, where the concept of femicide isn't defined by federal criminal law, Mexico legally sees it and utilizes it actively in its legal system. The figures emerging out of Mexico are shocking. Within the first 5 months of 2021 alone, the nation's Department of Public Safety reported 423 cases of femicide, while The Guardian reported quoting statistics from the U.S. indicating that in 2018, 104 women were killed by a current or former partner. Population adjusted, that's almost twice the rate in France. It's a sobering statistic, and in the EU affection that for femicide as a separate offense, but regardless of what the law describes, the act is the same. A woman murdered by a person she trusted, a person she once loved. Whether it occurs in Mexico, the US, or elsewhere in the world, it's the same tragic reality. Now Taylor Allen sits in a Cancun jail waiting to go on trial. His name is given. His actions are recorded. His conduct is undeniable. But the judicial process is incomplete. He felt he could control Sativa. Her words, her movements, her surroundings, even her breath. Now there's only one thing left he can control. The time between now and the moment he hears his sentence. Why do people remain in harmful relationships? The reasons are real and they're painfully understandable. Fear of being alone can be greater than the fear of harm. Emotional and financial dependence can bind somebody so tightly that independent choice seems out of reach. There's also the skewed perception of love where control is confused for attention and jealousy as evidence of love. That false impression is frequently enforced by shame, peer pressure, and hollow vows of change. Combined, those pressures can be more powerful than any bodily confinement, keeping a person stuck long after they've become aware of the threat. But Michaela is doing more than grieve her sister. She's acting. She operates a page in social media for posting updates regarding the case, gives presentations at events centered around recognizing warning signs of abusive relationships, raises money for survivors, and has also planned a charity run in memory of Sativa. Her objective is clear and unshakable: to battle for justice and prevent tragedies of this sort from occurring.